Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live.
Whoa!
I am digging on that music. That was great.
We are here, baby.
Shit's getting real, brothers. Shit's getting real.
Here we are.
Well, I'm excited to have in the studio with me this evening my co-hosts. We have revamped the show, and tonight is our launch, a soft launch for Real Men, Real Talk Live. I'm excited to have. I've got 4 co-hosts joining me now. We will be coming in live weekly every Friday evening at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And if you are coming in from down under, like Evis Heath is, what time is it there in Australia?
Just 11 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Saturday morning.
Beautiful.
Saturday morning, brother. Saturday morning.
So the nice thing is that because you are in our future, you actually have some insight as to what may unfold for us tomorrow. And so I really like that, because anytime I want to know how my day is going to turn out, all I got to do is ring Evis, I should say, and I'll know exactly what's going to unfold to me. In the desert, perhaps I'll know what snakes to look out for and what birds may be chirping. But getting back to why we're here tonight, I launched this show back coming up on 2 years ago, just shy of 2 years ago. And leading up to that launch of the show, I wanted to provide a platform where men can step into the studio and share their story of transformation, their story of hitting some type of life challenge and how they have rebounded, how they have gone from surviving to thriving. And I didn't know where the show would go. I didn't even know if I'd be able to find men that were willing to step in, have the courage to come in and share their story. But it's now been coming up on 2 years, and it's been an incredible experience. And through that time, I've had the opportunity to bring each one of my co-hosts into the show with me one-on-one and have an opportunity to have an amazing conversation. And through that experience, it came to me in nature not that long ago that it's time to take this show to the next level, because it's not just my voice that needs to be heard, but it's men's voices across the globe. And so I am so honored and humbled and excited to introduce to you, coming in from Southern California, Josh Ritcher. Josh, take a moment here, just introduce yourself and tell us a little, just real brief about what your background is. Who are you and where do you come from?
Sure. I came from TV. I was television production. I'm an art director. I've been on productions. I art direct Shark Tank. I did Deadwood back in the day, a whole slew of other shows. So so I came from TV, but I had a side business, a tech side business that I was trying to build outside of television that imploded and took me down with it financially, emotionally. And that's when I had to dig deep and figure out how to get myself out of the depression and anxiety and almost taking my own life. So yes, that's what started my whole internal journey, as I like to call it, and finding that peace within. So that's the quick version.
Beautiful. Well, Josh, you've been a 5-time guest on Real Men, Real Talk Live. And so welcome. I'm so excited to have you sitting next to me in this studio. Coming in from
beautiful thing. Thank you, Jay.
Coming in from down under, we have Evis Heath. I've lost track. We've done 3 or 4 shows together. And just to take a moment here to just give us a brief background on who you are and why you are sitting in this studio with us tonight.
Jay, thank you. And great to be on the platform again with my brothers in Real Men, Real Talk Live here in the land down under. And look, Jay, you know, we've gone in deep in a lot of our shows, my brother, and you've brought some of those darkest nights out of my life, but also many of those happy times as well. You know, my background, a lot of people might know me here in the land down under as a personal trainer, as a coach, transformational coach. But as I said on last week's show, I've really come to an understanding that I'm really nothing. I've come to an awareness that I'm everything. I've come to awareness that, you know, I'm the reflection of other people outside of me. I've come to the awareness that I'm the reflection of the birds, the trees that I'm out there every day in nature being a part of. So these days, my brother, yeah, you might see me getting online. I do help people transform to hopefully awaken to their highest unlimited potential. So, yeah, man, just a little bit about my backdrop, and I just love being here with the brothers and really excited to tune into these higher frequencies with our special guests on Real Men, Real Talk Live.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for accepting the offer to become a part of Real Men, Real Talk Live. Next, we've got Charles Mattocks. Charles and I just met, just a couple of 24 hours ago. We were introduced to you. I was introduced to you by the crew, by the cast from 8 Days, which is a TV show on right now on WGN Network in America, and it eggs global. You can see it throughout the world, and it's a reality show based on following for 8 days cancer patients that have chosen to opt out of traditional Western medicine and are in medical treatment at Hope for Cancer. And you are the filmmaker, executive producer, and beyond that, why don't you take a moment here, just introduce yourself to us and let the community know who you are and some of your successes you've had.
There's a natural mystic flowing through the ear. All right.
Oof.
If you listen carefully now, you will hear. But no, I'm a humble soul, brother, that is just doing what I'm out here supposed to be doing. My passion is film, is television, and it's really about telling stories and empowering people to live the best life they can, and really helping tell the stories of those who are dealing with things out here and issues that most of us never see. So it's a blessing to be with my wonderful brothers here. This is literally, man, I couldn't ask for anything more in these times right now, to be around these talented, beautiful people, to give back from a male perspective what we feel is something that is worth giving. So that's my story, man. I'm gonna keep it simple and run with it from there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charles, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. I'm so thrilled to have you as part of this group of men that are showing up today in a way that perhaps we didn't always show up, and now we've stepped forward into a higher experience of how a real man can show up. Yeah. And of course, that becomes a little controversial for some out there that push back and say, well, what is a real man? And perhaps we'll get into that a little bit later, as we touched on that in our last episode. I'd like to also introduce to you Jeff Fasano. Fasano is known as, he's a world acclaimed international photographer. He's a who's who in the world of Hollywood and music, as far as creating the opportunity to capture the true essence of his client that he has photoshopped. And so, Jeff, welcome to the studio. I believe this could be your maybe fifth time as well, having been a prior guest on Real Men, Real Talk Raw. So welcome to the cast with us, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks, Jay. Along with Charles, man, it's not easy to talk about myself. I'm very good at talking about what other people are doing and how great they are and all that good stuff. But real quick, what comes to my mind really quick is about changing your life. And I just wanted to add that as more people watch what we're doing here, they will eventually learn what real men are. And it's about revealing our souls, revealing our passion, revealing our hearts. And I began that journey about 20 years ago, totally changing my life from the corporate world and creating a whole brand new life as a photographer. Then began studying metaphysics, and then beginning opening my heart to be who I am, to love who I am, so I could come out in the world and gather with guys like this and live a dream. I'm living a dream right now as a photographer. I'm an author and all that good stuff. But a big dream of mine is exactly what we're doing here, gathering with a bunch of cool guys, real men, to connect with other real men, to see that you can really open your heart to the world and to others and be safe and still be a real man.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that, Jeff. And, I think ultimately that's why we're all here. That's why we all decided, yeah, we're in, because of what you just shared. And it's an opportunity for us to really give men the courage, give them permission to show up and grow up and feel safe enough for themselves to be able to be real, like to be able to show our strength when it's necessary, when it's required, but also to feel safe enough to show our softer side, whatever that may look like. And that's how my life changed about 5 years ago, when I finally had the courage to learn how to show up and in all of my relationships in a kinder, softer way, more from the heart space and less from the head space. And so what I'd like to do at this juncture in this segment is kind of throw it out there and ask you guys, what's in your head and what's in your heart? Josh, what's going on for you, brother?
I was afraid you were going to start with me. What's been in my head is been in conflict with my heart recently, actually. You guys know that I've been working really hard on my course and getting that out for people during this time. And what I did in that push, the typical man fashion, where I kind of blew past what I knew were my warning signs, and that I was redlining, and that I was running hot, and that my self-care was falling away. And it wasn't until yesterday that I was like, wow, this is the last 41 days since I was last, on a show. I've been pushing really hard, and I blew past everything. I stopped doing my morning meditations. I stopped doing the good sleep hygiene. I put everything on the side, and I thought that was okay. I thought it was okay to push the self-care side just for a little bit while I got something out that was supposed to be helpful to people and supposed to be good. So it was with a kind heart that I thought it was okay to blow past my self-care and the warning signs. And yesterday I woke up exhausted, and I was like, I'm spent and I'm fried, and I haven't been to this place in a long time because I've been so good. And, I really stick to my self-care regime. But the last month and a half, I thought it was okay. And I'm paying the price. And of course, as a man, I'm like, I did it. You see it as like, I screwed it up. But I also see it as, this was a wonderful learning opportunity. I see again, I know my list of what I got to hit on my self-care. And it just reminds me even more how important that is, and that today was a beautiful new day, and I could start fresh. And it wasn't a failure. It wasn't a setback. I've lost weight. I was working out. I was doing so great. And, I've lost some of that I worked so hard for, but that's okay. I got it once before, and I can do it again. So I think the healing in it for me was that forgiveness and that compassion. And that's what the self-care is for, is to fill our cup first so that we can then go fill others. We can't give from an empty cup. And so, yeah, I learned a hard lesson this last week, and I saw it was loud and clear right in my face yesterday. And I was like, got it. I got it. I put down self-care, and
Mm.
I'm paying the price. So it's been a humbling week.
You
You know
know,
what go ahead, Charles.
I was going to say, you know, Josh, me and you come from obviously doing that whole film and television thing. Do you think at times that, and I know I do, we put so much on ourselves, so much pressure on ourselves in this business of film and television that do you ever think that maybe we put too much on ourselves and that, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a nonstop hustle that it really, that we may lose ourselves at times just because, you know, we're in this industry.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, we're also, it's an industry where you can't fail.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to screw up. And you have to have backups on your backups on your backups. And that's I think the other damaging part of the industry is that need to control.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, learning trust and surrender were the hardest things. I think as a guy, but also as a guy coming from TV. I don't know if you've experienced that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But letting go of control and trusting in that we are in the flow, we are in our right place as long as we're listening to our heart. That trust was really hard for me too. Yeah, but TV has made it for sure. We're in a world that we control all the elements, and life isn't that way. It doesn't work that way.
You know, it's ironic. I always tell people, Josh, that I'm looking for or looking for a way out, not a way in. And what I mean by that is that, you know, and I like what you have and are doing now where, you know, you're doing writing and you have a book and it's about a meaning and a purpose. And I think a lot of times we spend all of our time trying to break into something, you know, especially into the business, when in all reality, we're at a space now where we're like, man, I'm
dying to get out.
You know what I'm saying? We want to go to the next chapter. We want to, you know, I want to be hiking where Jay is hiking and or where Evis is hiking. You know, I want to be on some beach or some other journey right now. And when do we get to that? When do we actually say, you know, we've achieved something enough to the point where, man, I'm ready for something else, and that it's not about material things, it's not about possessions, it's about, you know, just being happy. You know, can you speak to that, Evis? Hold on.
You're muted, buddy.
We got to unmute you. We got to unmute you. Go
There
ahead.
it is. Thanks, Jay. 100%, my brother. And like what you both brothers are saying, this self-care, man, so important right now for all of us on this planet. You know, me myself, just in this past week, you know, I've been helping a group of First Nations people here in a particular transformational challenge, which has to do a lot, obviously, with a healthier lifestyle. But I also think about the collective as a whole on this planet right now. We've all been asked to step into that higher possible version of ourselves. And, you know, I don't feel it's something that we need to be striving for, but more so something about what we just need to be being so much as to opposed to be doing to get there. So really getting in touch and aligning to a truer vibration that has always been a part of who we are. We've just been trapped and blocked in all programs that, like I said last week's video, they've fallen, they've crumbled, and now we've been forced to just be ourselves. You know, what is that gift? What is that intuitive gift about who we are? Well, you know, us men here today, I think we've got a clue about what that is. You know, we've all been through our own little darkest nights, like I mentioned, and through those times and those challenges, those adversities, as we're all going through, it really gives us an opportunity to step into that light that was always waiting for us. You know, it's just sitting there behind this veil at the moment. And, you know, like for me personally, like I said, I've been helping our brothers and sisters this week here in the land down under. But also for my own little journey, I was asked to go and speak up on a beach about one of our local Dreamtime stories here. And so that was just a beautiful thing for me, because I know that is part of me that I was luckily enough handed down by my elders as a child to be able to share to the world. And not only, you know, Dreamtime stories that have got to do with us as First Nations people here, but us as human beings on this planet. And as these things peel away at the moment on this planet, the old paradigm, the old system, we're going to really start to become more aware of what it is to be a human being down on here on this beautiful planet we call Earth.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah, I love that too. Yeah, I want to just jump in here for a moment here. I've heard a few things here that just are resonating with me. Number one, the first thing, Charles, you asked the question, you said, when do we know?
Yeah.
When do we know? And I'm going to break it down for you. You know when it comes from your heart and not your head, right? When we're still in conflict, when we're unsure, it means that we're not ready. We don't know yet. But there's an undeniable difference when you have that knowing. When you just know, it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to take the next step. I'm ready to step out so I could step in. That's when we know that we're doing the right thing. You know, even if it means that we're going to have, let's say, a shift in a financial, economic status, perhaps even willing to do that, because it's no longer what you were doing, perhaps may no longer be aligned with who you are or who you want, how you want to live your life. And so it's when we get out of our head and get into our heart, we will know when that moment is. The other thing I want to jump on, Josh, is, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm going to break this to you. Reality check here. It doesn't matter if you're in film or television, or if you were just a workaholic the way I was for 34 years of my career. I did what you did for 34 years. I never took time. I never gave myself permission to show up for me. So I was an executive in corporate America, wearing a suit and tie for many years, and with a tremendous amount of responsibilities and pressure. And so I just wanted to just kind of make that a reality check. Like, it's not just film and TV, but it's everybody. We all, no matter what we're doing, we put this pressure on ourselves. We hold ourselves to a standard, and we don't give ourselves permission to first show up for ourselves. We think that we're going to get our needs met by the accolades, by the bonuses, by the respect, by the acclaim, all of it. And the reality is that none of that filled me up. I got a lot of that, and it didn't serve me. It ended up actually getting physically, my body was breaking down. By the time I was not even 50 years old, I had a heart attack, and I needed to get sicker. I needed to deep dive even further into unnecessary pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to touch on is when you acknowledge, and I want to just take a moment to honor you in this present time, Josh, is that you just came forward, you were real, and you shared your truth. You shared some real vulnerability about how you had this awakening just in the last 24 hours, that you plowed through this challenge that you put yourself through to create and release a coaching program for clients. And through your acknowledgement, I want to make sure that where we tend to go as men is it gets real slippery. Because once we realize that we didn't do it the way we now know a better way to do things, which is showing up for ourselves, we can easily go into shame. We could easily beat ourselves up. And I think it's important, as you acknowledge, that it's less about shame and all about what's the lesson. What did I learn about myself here that I needed to face one more time so that I could just do it differently come today. So it's not about beating ourselves up. It's about honoring ourselves. It's about having that moment of clarity when we can say, you know what? Yes, I don't like the way I showed up for myself, but it's okay. I can't change that outcome. But what I can change is how I show up for myself right here, right now, today. So today you can make a different choice for yourself without shame, without guilt, without any of that nonsense that we tend to gravitate and hold on to, and then we go into a whole nother cycle of self-sabotage, right?
Totally.
And I'd like ask Josh too as well. Josh, what do you see, or what would you like to see about everything, not everything, but just where you're at right now and your fulfillment for the next couple of years?
For the next couple of years? Oh, I mean, it's helping people. Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
through my crash, I discovered my passion,
Yeah.
which is, I didn't know I was a teacher. And, but that's where the universe guided me, and that's where I've ended up. So I'm immensely grateful to be on this journey and to just be following what's in the heart knows best. And so I've just been following my heart. But yeah, I lost my way the last couple of weeks. I did the guy push. I did the guy push.
Yeah.
Well, learned, and like you said, Jay, you know, it's not really a tomorrow thinking. I think a lot of people get into that tomorrow thinking, and there's always a tomorrow, but all we have is today.
Yeah.
So I woke up this morning and said, today I'm doing things differently. Today I'm putting myself first, so that I can meet the world with a full cup and a full heart, and not meet the world empty and the lower vibration, and you know, all of that. So yeah, I chose today.
Beautiful.
Love that.
Love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Jeff Fasano, I'm gonna just take a moment here to invite you to share with us what's in your head and what's in your heart. I gotta unmute you. You know, I've muted all of you guys, not because I want to be quiet, but because we want to have some control over reverb. So, if you could please, on your end, if you have the ability to manage your own unmuting,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
For sure.
I'm gonna unmute Jeff.
Yeah.
There you go. You're
Thanks for
open.
unmuting me. Now you're not going to be able to mute me again.
Okay.
Oh, there's so much in my head, but you know what's really cool. And like I say, every time we do this, I learn so much, and stuff resonates. And Charles's question to Josh, and I second Jay, that it's not just in the TV business, but it's also photographers as well. And back at the end of January, I had my comeuppance. I had my cosmic 2x4 hit me across the back of the head, and realized how much I had been stressing for 20 years. I was living outside of myself for 20 years. I had a whole different set of realizations, or what was real to me. I completely lost myself. And it took tinnitus to come along and be that cosmic 2x4 to hit me across the back of the head that was screaming, stop. I completely lost my way. I completely lost the reason why I have chosen my passion as photography and helping people. And it all was about validation and getting validation outside of myself, stressing over money, success, what people are going to think of me. Tons and tons and tons of judgment and shame just came up out of the blue right at the end of January, and I completely stopped my life, and said I need to take a good, deep, long look inside of myself, because every issue that I had came to the fore. The intense judgment and shame, the intense self-criticism, how I looked at success. It was all in my head, surface stuff, and I lost my way. I totally lost my way as to why I'm here. What am I doing? What was I put on this earth to do? And I was doing it all in such a way that had nothing to do with the real person I am. And I knew I had to go in and shed all of that old programming and conditioning to begin, as Evis said in the very first show we did, to come home to myself, in my heart, come home to myself, and be accepting of myself, to be more loving and kind and gentler with myself, to let go of stressing over stuff that I am totally out of control of, but as totally meaningless to me. And I'm just rediscovering and remembering the depth of who I am, and going back and recapturing why I left a corporate job when I was 40 to do photography, and the real reason as an artist, and then the real reason why I studied metaphysics and helped people. And it wasn't about continually needing to prove myself, need to get love from outside of myself. My heart was shut down. And that all happened just 2 months ago now, at the end of January. And I just opened up to myself and just and just stopped. Found a great old friend of mine in New York who's an amazing therapist. And I really wanted to rediscover and remember who I truly am, and not who I think I should be, always having to prove myself, and to go into a greater place of loving me and knowing that I'm worthwhile and worth it. And it has been a complete deconstruction, as Evis says, of the programming from mom and dad and everything else. And I thought I had my shit together. And I'm just in this place of knowing that I haven't even gotten to the other side of, I'm just finding what home is. Finding in my heart what home really, really is. And at times I walk in this world and I'm clueless, and I as Evis said, I don't know anything, but I think I may know something, and I'm just getting it all back together again. And you guys, Charles's question to Josh just started fueling all of this inside of me. So what's in my head is old. What's in my heart is new, but it's always been there.
Jeff, that was beautiful.
Magic, brother.
Nothing but love. And I have a question for you, because I know I would have asked this. How are you finding you now? How are you finding that old self? Like, what are your steps that you're doing to discover who you are inside?
What it is put it this way, back at the end of January, beginning of February, a friend of mine said, Jeff, it's time to take care of yourself. And I had no clue what she was talking about. I went, what? She goes, you're great at taking care of everybody else. You're great at taking care of me, because I'm a caretaker. And she said, take care of yourself. And it was by trial and error. And I'm still learning that, because there's a form of guilt underneath it. Like, oh, I'm focusing on myself. I need to be focusing out there. And what I'm getting is I'm learning self-care. I'm learning self-love. It's humbling. And it's practice. And like Josh, you said earlier, I can fall off that. And I felt myself lately falling off. Like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I need to do this. And then I went, whoa, wait a second. I said to myself that I want to take this time to be who I am. My whole goal in this is to be who I am. And I said the last time we got together, I'm still learning who that person really, really, really is. So it's a practice every single day. And right now it's like, I kind of know who I am. I don't, but I know that who I was before this cosmic 2x4 hit me across the back of the head is I'm not going to be that person ever again.
And I think I said something years ago when I was going through my sort of my rough spot and my awakening was, I was comfortably uncomfortable. And I think what I meant by that was like, I didn't know what I was going into. The future was unknown, but I was okay with that discomfort because I didn't want to be who I was. And so I think, and I still say that too. I don't know who I am. I'm shedding who I'm not. And what's underneath, I don't know. I don't know. It's coming up.
Yep. All of us have people in our lives, like even Jay, when he introduces us, there's a part of me that going, that's me. Believe me. And I have people who love me dearly, who have my back, who have been friends for life, and who have been with me. And sometimes I have the question of like, why? Why do you want to help me? And that was a big eye opener for me, because we love you for who you are. And that's what I'm starting to discover, that I'm at the point of moving through the fear of opening my heart to let someone in, to let you guys in, to stop having everything at arm's length and saying you only get this close. And I lived my life like that for forever, and I never realized it. And I'm 61 years old, and I'm damn friggin' tired of it. It's time to open my heart and let love in.
Hey, Jeff, can I ask you a question? Number one, is that something that, because I know I had some revelations about myself that I look back and it came from my parents. And is that something that may have come from somewhere or someone? And also part two on that, it's very interesting when we hear that, what you're talking about, Jeff, because, a lot of times we feel, hey, man, at this age, I'm going to have myself together and I'm going to know it all, or per se. And, to know that at your age, you're still redefining yourself. Is that something that you thought you would have had together by now, or do we always redefine ourselves, as we grow? Because, and I might say, sometimes I talk to my mom, and I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm baffled, because I'm like, man, why don't you push yourself and grow? Why don't you change the way you're thinking? Why don't you, you know what I mean? It baffles me that they can be at times just stuck in one way of being.
Yep.
So I would love to know those two questions right there.
Well, our programming, as Evis said constantly, and I keep on referring to that, the programming for me and for most people is mom and dad. It's what I've learned from them. And there's a lot of wonderful things I learned from mom and dad, but there's things that have been programmed into me from both of them that I never realized until a couple of months ago. The deepest parts, the deepest fear of letting people in, of opening my heart, receiving love, allowing myself to be who I am, the constant shame and judgment from possibly not, my parents not giving me the love that I needed and all that good stuff. And yeah, through being in therapy and going through it and wanting to change, I've realized that what's going on with me is definitely from mom and dad. It's no doubt. It's all programmed into the fears of not wanting to get close from somebody, with people, isolating and separating myself. It's what they taught me, unbeknownst to them, because they were only living what they knew, that created this programming inside of me that is in my head, and it's not in my heart. And the key now, because we live in our head, and this is where our wounded little children live. They live up here. My little boy lives up here through the programming of mom and dad. My adult lives here in my heart. That's who I am. So it's about taking that programming, starting to break it down, but in conjunction of moving into my heart to create adult situations and an adult life where nothing is threatening. Our little boy and little girl is always threatened because all they know is life and death. So if I meet somebody, boom, that little boy is threatened with life and death based on the programming from mom and dad, that if I get close to you, you're going to suffocate me, betray me, abandon me. And that is affecting my life, says the 7-year-old. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this and stay away from you. And I never knew I was doing that until about the end of January.
And you got that from, you pulled that back from an old, I would say old memory or old thing from your youth?
Well, yeah, you can help give the kudos to Ron Baker, who's I'm working with right now, who pulled that out of me about a month ago, and revelations that I never even knew, that created it. It totally created it, and I don't want it anymore. It's the breaking down of that programming so I could be my authentic self and not be frightened. Not be frightened when somebody says, "Oh, dude, I dig you. I like you." Oh, yeah? Well, what do you want from me?
You know,
I can go on and on.
Here Mary Kelly said, and I'm not to jump off, but we got times. But Mary Kelly said, our parents did the best that they knew.
Yeah.
And I always dream of those, me personally, dream of those parents that, man, supported you through thick and thin, had your back. Did they do the best that they knew?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they're two totally. One of the things I've come to accept was a long time ago through working therapy back in the early 2000s. I eventually realized that my mother and my father are just two people doing the best they can based upon their wounding. But they transfer that wounding onto us because that's all they know. And when they transfer that wounding onto us, that is the programming. One of the things that my mother would always say to me, I'm very emotional. You guys just saw it on the first show. I go into my heart. She always would point at me and say, "Stop crying," because of how it made her feel. And she made it all about herself. So I want you to, because I see you cry or having your emotions, that triggers something in me that I have no clue how to process. So I want you to stop because you're making me feel uncomfortable, but I can't even know what I'm feeling. I just want you to stop.
And I don't mean to keep jumping in, but I mean, obviously, what we have learned, and even as parents now, me of 4 kids, how I have to walk that line, because I know for my kids, I'm like, man, I'm not going to be what, I saw, what I grew up with. And I try to be totally different from that. But it's amazing to know that so many years ago, whether it's 30, 40, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, that something can affect us even now, that we look back and we're like, yo, that affected us.
Just think about, this is real men, real talk. just to think about the quote unquote real men out there who continually live their lives with that programming inside of them and are frightened to death to even open the door to their programming in their heart. And will just continue to have this shield, this mask, this wall in front of them, and live some sort of life that where their heart is shut down. They're shut down here. And we were just talking earlier how that is going to lead to physical dis-ease. You're going to get sick. You're going to get sick when your emotional body is shut down, and then it's important to heal the emotional body and have your feelings. Real men out there, it is okay to feel.
Amen, bro. Amen.
And that's how I was, Jeff. I was drinking to numb those emotions. I was scared to feel. And so I thought I had to stuff it down, and drinking was the perfect way. And I, of course, it took more and more alcohol as the pressure built, you know?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Linda just mentioned something pretty interesting out there. She asked a question, brothers, what if it's just one parent that is toxic? I don't know if you want to piggyback on that question, brothers, but you know, it really does come down to this state of awareness. You know, like we're sitting around here on this platform at the moment. Go back 10, maybe even 5, just 5 years ago, probably now there wasn't hardly any platforms speaking about this stuff as we are as men in this group today. So we've got to really define, okay, where we are in our lives, particularly to this question that Linda's asking, in our state of awareness. This is the key, this is the first step into this evolution of who we are. And we really have that really powerful time at the moment where we're actually forced, like I keep saying, to stay at home and have that awareness about some of these things, like these beautiful words Jeff starts talking about, these states of awareness that he's getting at the age of 61. So when we go deeper, brothers, man, what we are made up of, when we think of that very essence of who we are, the spirit, the energy, whatever you want to call it, it is immortal. It has no idea of what time is or what an age is. So it doesn't really matter what age we're at when we get these states of awareness, but we have to be aware that most of this program happens in that start of that ages from years 1 to 7 years old. So when we become a little bit more aware of what our mind is doing, how the brain is operating, and how this disconnection can happen from this, you know, so-called mind-heart connection, then we can start making, you know, crossroads, or we can start making bridges to move forward in what it is we are. What's your voice on that one, Jay, that was asked?
Well, I don't know if your audio is coming in for the other guys here, but I'm having a difficult time hearing you clearly, Evis. I'm not sure if you may want to drop out and come back in and see if you're able to improve
it's a little bit hard.
It was somewhat difficult. Here's my take on it. And what I'd like to do is move on to the next segment in a moment here. But I want to piggyback on what Mary shared, which is a lot of us spend our lifetime blaming our caretaker, if it was a parent or a grandparent or whomever it was that was raising us. As adults, we're still living in blame. And the trajectory of our whole life, whole adulthood, is that we are still in bondage to our experiences that were hurtful when we were children, if in fact we had exposure to unhealthy behaviors by our caretakers. And unknowingly, we're showing up living in pain. We're showing up through the words we speak, and more importantly, how we're showing up from our behavior. And part of my own healing journey of coming home to myself, as Jeff described, for me was I needed to accept. It's about acceptance that my parents did the best that they could with what they knew, as was shared here. But more importantly than that, beyond the acceptance, I had to start to hold myself accountable for my own behavior. It was time for me to grow up. It was time for me to show up and grow up and stop holding other people accountable for how my life's turned out as an adult. It was time for me to hold myself accountable and say, yes, those things did happen, but they no longer have to define who I am, because I don't want to live in a bondage of those feelings, of those emotions, of that cellular memory that got attached to me throughout my whole entire body, that has been holding me back from being who I was born to be, which is free. Freedom. Freedom doesn't come from holding an American flag or a flag of your country. Freedom doesn't come from our thoughts. Freedom comes from our experience of how we show up for ourselves. We could live in a free society as we do in the United States, but the majority of us are living in internal bondage. We're living with chains and shackles. And so I dare you, I challenge you, break the chain, break the shackles, show up and grow up and start doing the work to live in acceptance and accountability for what you can do to improve your own life. Now, I'm not sitting here really saying this. I'm not here to preach. I'm just sharing my own experience. It took me 54 years to be near death, literally at death's doorstep, to wake up and realize that I had spent my entire adult life living in that world that I just described. And what I knew is that if I wanted to die, all I had to do was keep doing what I was doing, which was blaming everyone else for my woes. Or I could have the courage to change. And that meant having to go deep within, facing my own shadows, doing the work, the emotional healing, the mental healing, the physical healing, and the spiritual healing, so that I could come home to me and no longer live in the shackles of my past experience, and learn how to show up for myself. And so I'm not sure if that resonates with any of you men in this room here right now. I see some head shaking. Josh, what are you taking away?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's it is really hard to say. Well, let me start with, it's really easy to blame everybody else, and I did the blame game too. And those original things that happened to us absolutely happened by, somebody else, did that to us, but it's our job now. We've been carrying that with us for the rest of our life. We've been holding on to that. We're the ones keeping that tension alive, keeping that story alive and that belief alive. And we can let those go. But it takes staring at it and saying, you know what? I see you. I see what you're doing here to me. And I'm choosing freedom, like you said. And I'm choosing to let go. It's I had a wonderful, my sort of mentor had this shoestring thing that he'd do, where he'd have you, he wouldn't tell you what to do. He'd just say, grab the end of the shoestring, and you'd grab the other side. And he'd start tugging, and you pull back to keep the balance. And then he'd tug harder, and you start pulling harder to keep that balance between the string. And he's like, just let go, man.
Beautiful.
Just let go.
Beautiful. I love that.
We hold that tension to keep, because we think we're keeping that in check, in balance, but we're not. We can let go.
Yep. The first thing we have to do is, when we look at our programming, and it comes from mom and dad, the first thing we have to do is to let go of the blame of mom and dad. That I'm blaming mom and dad for the way I am. That's not it. When you come to understand mom and dad, as Charles and I were talking before, realizing mom and dad are just did their best, who they are, this, that, and you come to that realization, Then you could start to work on the programming, because you're no longer blaming and shaming mom and dad for what's going on in your life. What it is about it's about deconstructing the programming after, because I'm not a victim. We're not victims here. If you start doing the victim, the blame and shame game, forget about it. You're going to stay in that place. We're here for self-empowerment, but we have to deconstruct the programming to move to greater levels of self-empowerment. So it is about breaking the chain, breaking the chain of mom and dad, and breaking that chain and doing it however we know how. And the first is just accepting, mom and dad were just doing the best they can. And now I'm going to deconstruct the programming inside of me, because I want to move into a greater level of self-empowerment of who I truly, truly am. What the thing about it is, and Charles says it's 61, or actually Evis said it's 61, is that programming is deep inside of us in the depth of our soul space. That is there. However we choose to begin that deprogramming is the hero's journey. It's about the hero.
Beautiful.
It's
I
taking
love that
hero's journey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce someone who's been waiting so patiently in the waiting room. And I'd like to bring into the studio now a special guest. Her name is Dr. Leslie Gomez. Dr. Leslie, welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. You have been so patient. Welcome to the studio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a great opportunity to listen to these beautiful guys showing up their hearts and just being totally open and honest. And I can see lots of truth and a lot of healing right there. So I love it. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the
invitation. Would you take a moment here, Dr. Leslie, just a high level, give us a brief background as to what your background is and who you are. And then I'd like to invite you to share a little bit about what were your takeaways from our conversation this evening?
Ooh, I have lots of notes. Okay, so, well, my background is I was born in Mexico City. I've been living in Cancun for the last 14 years. I'm a pediatrician, so my medical background, it's very interesting because right now I'm working at Hope for Cancer. It's a clinic that treats cancer adult patients. So it's, you might be wondering, what is a pediatrician doing there, right? Yeah, I wonder that too. But now I know that being a pediatrician, it was actually part of my spiritual journey. I needed that. I needed that journey to be able to dive into the inner child that you guys been talking about so much, to be able to understand the wounds of the child that are now in the adult that I see right there when I have my patients where I'm working one-on-one with them, that I see the wounds that are being unhealed or still a conflict that it's being expressed in the body as an illness, as a cancer. So my background, basically, I had a call. I had a call to cancer 3 times. My third time, so the first time was when I arrived to Cancun. I was not ready for the project that I was invited to because I got married when I was 41. And then I had a baby when I was 42. So my daughter was very little when all that happened. So I said no. The second time I had a daycare. My daughter was 2 years old. Dr. Tony and Marcy, the owners of Hope for Cancer, wanted me to join the team. And I literally said, I don't think I'm ready to let my own projects go yet, right? But I tried to help as much as I could in connections in Cancun. I knew my way around Cancun already by then. But 3 years ago, I thought I wanted to leave Cancun. It was a little rocky, not very safe, and having a daughter, and I just wanted a different world for her. So I was looking for signs. I follow the signs. I think the universe always gives us signs. And sometimes we just don't follow. We're stubborn and we tend to be afraid of doing those shifts that we have to do to follow the real spiritual path that we came here to fulfill. But then I couldn't find any sign. So I dare to ask God, and I say I dare because every time I ask, I just get the answer. And a lot of times I don't like the answer, but I just have to follow, right? Because I got it. I asked and I have to follow. So I had to call. I said, where do you want me? And literally 2 weeks later, Tony and Marcy, Dr. Tony and Marcy called me again. So for me, it was very clear, and I had no idea what I was going to do there. I didn't know how I was going to be able to fulfill, talking about expectations, right? To fulfill their expectations from me. But literally, I know now, I've been there for 3 years, that it's been a beautiful journey. It's been an amazing opportunity for me to integrate everything that I lived as a child, to heal. Everything that I went through in my pediatric practice, all the time that I was angry at God, and how I came back to God in that journey. All my alternative medicine background. I had a partner before I got married that was an acupuncturist. So I learned about energy medicine, Chinese medicine for 9 years. So I practiced, I understood, he got me out of the box of the medical. So I understood that there was much more that I could use as a tool in my medical practice. So I integrated homeopathy remedies, Bach flower, essential oils, shiatsu, family constellations, just anything that I could do to help patients. But then I realized that the work that I was doing, it was not enough. Children kept coming back, and I'm like, I'm missing something. And then I realized that the kids are connected to the mothers, especially the moms, especially the first 7 years of life. And that's the emotional body that's being developed. So when I realized that, I knew that my work was not just going to be with the child. I needed to work with the mom also. And that's when I started, just sometimes in the beginning was listening to them, giving them the time to express themselves, and just listening to them. And little by little, I started, advising and giving them other tools for them to heal. And I would try a therapy, just saying, well, maybe this therapy would be useful for these women, so I'll take it to see if it's useful. And I would go and take it, and I would find myself healing something. So we're all in this path of healing, right? And all I did was share. So by that, I started working a lot with adults. And I think that led me to be able to understand the child, that it's expressing the inner child in that adult, and to understand the human nature and the organs and every part of your body, just trying to express, it has an emotion associated. So I studied that for 10 years, and I was able to understand how every organ has an emotion. And then it's like the cancer or any other illness. It's just trying to tell you something. It's just a messenger. Illnesses are just messengers. So by that, I guess. Huh?
So, Dr. Leslie, what I would like to wrap into is, from some of what you've heard here.
Yeah.
Between God.
So by that,
yeah. What have you taken away?
Everything what I heard here, it's very interesting, because I heard the main words that I listened to was shame, guilt, self-love, and the wounds in the child. If we go to the major, because I heard a lot of things, but that's my major integration that I stands out in this talk, in this conversation that you guys had. So I wanted to really quick, I'll try to be as quick as possible. I just have so much information in my being. But the shame is coming from the mind. So we have 3 brains. I don't know if you've read about it or if you know about it. We have the limbic, well, first of all, I call it the reptilian brain, then is the limbic brain, and the cortex, which is the logic brain. So we have 3 brains. And the reptilian brain is the one that makes you survive. So you run for your life, you don't feel, you don't think, you just survive. Then you go to the limbic brain, is the one that all the emotions are right here. Everything that you feel is love, anger, sadness, frustration, all that is here, except guilt or shame. That one is in the cortex, it's in the mind. So what I came to integrate is that how can that be in the mind is because the mind jumps into the judging. So the shame and the guilt is coming from people judging us, and all that judging is coming also from expectations, right? And all that is the mind, the body, is the judge, the programmation is not you, it's just the programmation. So when you guys jumped to the heart, which you've been doing in your own journey, each one of you, when you are jumping into the heart, is because your call to the soul, it's been there. There in the soul, there is no judging, there is no right or wrong. It is what it is. You cannot judge feelings, right? You can't judge if love is right or wrong. It's just love, right? So there is no judging, and there's where the true self it's being expressed. That's where you can trust, where you can enjoy, and you can set yourself free. And you have all been through that in some point of your own journey. So that's one of the things, that it stand out. I don't know if that's one of, I don't know, things that you would be interested in hearing. But the other thing that I attract my attention, and as a pediatrician and as a mom, I would like to share with you all that I think we are all playing a role in the life of other people, and other people is playing a role in our lives. And that role it's only to go through human experiences that will give us a chance spiritually. So the evolution is actually, in conclusion for me, evolving is coming from unconditional love and forgiveness. So we for others and to ourselves. So a lot of times we're going to go through some experiences, and we're going to put ourselves into some experiences that we regret or that we feel ashamed of. But it's not right. It's not right to do that, because actually that is just another opportunity for us to learn how to love and forgive ourselves.
Hey, Dr. Leslie, and I'm sorry to jump in.
Yes.
Can you address Jeff? I just think that maybe you and Jeff could have a conversation for about a minute or two, just from what you took from Jeff and his comment.
Yes. Yes. So what he was talking about, it was about the parents, and that he didn't find enough love from his parents. And I made a big note about that. I just said it's not about what we receive, it's more about what we give that should be good enough for us to be happy. So as children, we come into the world thinking, and they made us think that if you are good enough, then you will receive love. If you are not good enough, then you don't deserve my love. That's what parents tend to do, because that's generational. That's the way they used to be. That's the way they were raised. If you are a good boy, I will love you. If you are this, I will do, always with conditions and expectations. And the parents, they just didn't have the tools to take the opportunity to open up their hearts, because the child got into the family for them to open up, not the child to do whatever they expected to be loved. So even that journey, the parents were just playing that role for us to understand that we actually didn't need their love. They needed us. They needed us for them to open up their hearts, and they just didn't take the opportunity. And then we can see them with so much compassion, understanding that they didn't have the emotional or spiritual tools for them to open up their hearts. That's why they couldn't love us.
Yeah.
And actually, we can actually say, you know what? Thank you for showing me that path so I could realize I am capable of loving myself and I am good enough without your love, that you are the one that didn't take that opportunity to open up your heart. And it's okay. It's okay.
I got
Now
to
I get it.
I got to jump in.
And I'm so sorry you didn't have that
No,
chance.
no,
But you know that, guys, the
because
only way that you heal is expressing that to your parents also. And that will give them the chance to also heal by saying, you know, mom and dad, thank you for this journey. And I'm sorry you didn't have the tools to express your love. I know you love me, but you just didn't know how. And you know what? It was perfect because that gave me the chance to learn how to love and forgive you unconditionally. And that gave me the chance to love and forgive myself for thinking that I was not good enough when I've been good enough all along.
I got to jump
Make
in.
sense?
I got to jump in for 1 second. What,
Yes.
Jeff, I want you to definitely jump in and reply to that, but also, Dr. Leslie, when do we realize that? You know what I'm saying? Because when does that come? When do we, when does that happen? You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I don't want to go too much into all of my personal stuff, but you know, I've dealt with that type of, you know, non-existent love where, you know, I feel like the guy from Driving Miss Daisy, where I'm just being beat up and abused, and I just have to just take it just because, you know what I'm saying? It's so. Jeff, jump in real quick, and then Dr. Leslie, if you can, wrap around that, that would be fantastic.
Well, for me, is more of what. So there's various. I never received the praise as a young kid from mom and dad because they didn't know how to do that. Like saying, wow, Jeff, you are a good baseball player. My father could never do that. My father had never said, I loved you because of his deep fears inside of himself. My mother's, all of that was, I came into it. I was a miracle baby. My mother, doctors told my mother that you'd never have a kid, blah, 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 blah. She lets go. I come into my life. I probably validated her, et cetera, et cetera. Then it just became all about her. And then my role was that I needed to take care of mom. That's it in the short version of it. I've learned all of that. And that and many other things have created the programming that, that I never knew what self-love was. It was always about taking care of mom. And I never got the praise from dad. To, at a young age, to formulate the self-love because that's what they were doing. You know, that's just there where they were. And it just takes a while. And as real men, it comes a time if you're really looking at your life, and like Jay, like all of us here, what Jay was doing, what I was doing for 18 years in the corporate world, I was miserable. I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live. To live. Some people it takes a near-death experience. Some people it just takes something to wake them up. We're here as real men to help these guys by sharing our stories to say, wake up, look at your life. Wake up. You can heal, but you can feel. And that's what we're doing here as guys is we're on a path of going within and bringing in that feminine side, that self-compassion, that self-love that we can feel from the depth of our hearts. We can open our hearts. We can be vulnerable, be transparent, be authentic. We can cry. And it's okay, guys, to let down that guard that you're the tough guy and you're not allowed to cry and you're not allowed to feel. And the only way you think you'll be loved in life is you just provide for your family. And that's good enough. That's a lot of what my father did. You know, so that's what we're here to do. That's what this show's about.
Yeah, well, I believe that a lot of times that's what they had to learn to survive. You know, that's the way they used to survive, by jumping into the mind. And for a lot of people, that's their nature, and it's okay, and they survive and they live for a long time and they never get sick because they were going pro their nature. But for sensitive people to live in a world that is in the mind is very hard. And because everybody around you is going to tell you, oh, feelings, what is that? Self-love, what are you talking about? You know? So I've seen that a lot. And unfortunately, and I'm blessed that you guys are opening up and not being ill, because unfortunately, a lot of the people that I see every day usually is very sensitive people that just had to jump in the mind to survive, but they were going against their nature, and that's why they got sick. So if you tell me why you open up, how come all you guys woke up, maybe it was some kind of pain. Could have been emotional pain, physical pain, or a risk of almost dying, or getting into addictions and trying to, jump out of the mind, to stop the mind and all that. And I think it was just perfect for you guys to be able to jump into the heart and then recognize, oh, I do have a heart, and be able to express yourself with both, with the mind and the heart. That's being wise. And that's what I see right here with you guys.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dr. Leslie, wow. You just took us home. I'm so grateful that Charles Mattocks, who had the honor and privilege to meet you for the 8-day set,
Yes.
that was filmed in Cancun at Hope for Cancer, thought that you would be just an absolutely beautiful guest this evening on our official launch of Real Men, Real Talk Live. I want to take a moment just to thank you again for joining us and being patient with us as you had the opportunity to listen to 5 Real Men Talk Live.
Yeah.
And with that, I'd like to invite Evis to give your closing thoughts on tonight's conversation, and then we're going to do a quick wrap.
Say just one more thing to Jeff. One more thing to everybody. Where is home? That's a question. Where is home, Jeff?
I love that, Les.
Heart
All
and my
people.
soul.
Yes, 100%, Jeff.
It's right here. It's right there. And,
it's right here, honey. So stay there, and you'll be safe.
And I'm making that journey right now.
Yeah. Congratulations, and thank you.
Our very first show, Evis got me.
You're a very brave man, my brother, and really honor your story. You know how much I love your stuff, Jeff. So this is what this beautiful platform is all about, and to have such a beautiful lady on board with us tonight. And just want to thank my sidetrack all of these beautiful people out here engaging in tonight's platform. You know, the more you share this message, the more this global consciousness raises the vibration of this planet. And, we're talking about a lot of mind-heart connection here, and maybe in the past that we have been disconnected. And no matter how we all seem to have grown up with some sort of childhood trauma, that through beautiful self and freedom of expression and through providing our own truths through our voice is really going to be able to set ourselves free. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, the engagement out there tonight with our audience, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And for a beautiful guest, Leslie, for jumping on tonight. Like I said at the start of the platform, sister, you're truly going to be the rose between all of us thorns in here. So thank you.
Thank you, Evis. Unfortunately, your audio has been somewhat compromised this evening, and you have a week to get that figured out. And I know your words are so important to be heard, and so it's unfortunate that we're picking up every other word underwater. But I know that where you just came from, you just spoke from your heart space, not your head space. And you speak from your own experiences of having walked down that path, walked down that rabbit hole, as some of us refer to it as. And so thank you for sharing from your heart space. Charles, I'd like to invite you to give some closing thoughts, and then I'll close this out. Hold on, got to unmute you.
Yeah, I didn't, I think we kind of got off on that one topic a little too long per se, because we were supposed to have a couple more topics. But I think one of the things we kind of looked at was having a topic that actually ran a little bit longer. And I remember I had a breakthrough, and this was in California. I was on my boat in Marina del Rey, and I literally broke out in tears as, I had a good dad. I mean, he wasn't Mr. Go get him boy, Mr. He and I guess the comparison was he wasn't discouraging. So that was sufficient enough for me. But there were some things that I saw and learned from him, even regarding relationships with other people. And it wasn't until I was on that boat where literally I just broke out in tears, man. And it made me just have to look back on what I learned from him. And it was a telling moment. And so to see some of us still going through this and understanding that, what we went through years ago at times can affect us even till now. And like Dr. Leslie said, where's home? And for a second I had to think and say, where is home? And then realize that home is here. And we have to make peace with that. And I think that, wow, what we have here is really special. And I think coming from, different men who have gone through different things and able to share, and then bringing on, amazing guests that see it on maybe from a different perspective too at times, that kind of maybe align with what we have here. I think it's going to be very powerful. And I didn't think I'd get so emotional and so wrapped up in this, but now I'm seeing that what we have here is really important. And the continuing journey, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, is always a continuing journey of trying to be the best that we can be. And I thank you, Jay, for bringing this all together. And I know we have literally ran over time, but I think, every week we're going to get deeper and deeper. And I'm very excited to share my truth, because I kind of keep private at times and don't share too much of myself. But I think I need it. So back to you, Jay.
Wow. This has just been amazing. Wow. You got me speechless, and that's not an easy thing to do. But I will say this is I'm speechless because in this moment, I've just sat here. I've listened. I've really enjoyed this conversation tonight. This is for me beyond a vision, a dream. It is. You guys just showed up right on time. If there's not a greater time for us as a global world, as a global reach community, to touch men and women all over the world. And we get to do that. We get to do that by showing up, being raw, being real, being honest, being authentic, and expressing our experiences as our life has unfolded and continues to unfold. And hopefully, if nothing else happens through this conversation, through this platform, we provide inspiration and hope for men that may be suffering, that may be struggling, that may be hurting, that have been living a life unfulfilled and a life filled with pain. And understand that each one of us men have faced this moment in our own lives. And we continue to work one day at a time on coming home, on healing those wounds, healing those shadows, facing those shadows. And we talk about being a real man. Being a real man is about facing your own shadows. And it's nowhere near as scary as being 3 feet away from a camelback rattlesnake that I faced yesterday. That snake was way more scary than facing my own shadows. Facing your own shadows, it's about learning how to like yourself and eventually falling in love with yourself. And that's not a scary experience. That's a beautiful experience. What it takes is courage. And with that, I'm thrilled with how things went tonight. I'm looking forward to next week we could deep dive into what's in your head and what's on your heart. And with that, thank you, gentlemen, and Dr. Leslie for joining us on Real Men, Real Talk Live.
Everybody share. If you're on right now, if you're on your computer, please press that share button so we can let the world get this out there. We have some big plans for this show, and got to thank Jay for hosting. Got to thank Josh for this amazing intro. Jeff for holding it down. Evis all the way from the land down under. Dr. Leslie, we're gonna have you on a regular basis because we're just getting started with you.
So much love to give.
Colleen, count on me. Count on me.
And that's a wrap.
So much, and I'm grateful for this journey. Thank you so much for the invitation again. And
Thank you, Leslie.
don't be afraid of expressing your heart. I think it's not about judging. I think it's about, letting yourself the chance to say, this is how I felt. Talk to your parents, really. Say, this is how I felt. Even if they're not here anymore, you can always share and talk to them and from your heart without judging, just being honest. This is how I felt, but it's okay now. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. We'll see you next Friday night, 9 p.m. East Coast, 6 p.m. West Coast.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, okay, we're back.